Whether you're buying your first domain name or you're a regular domain investor, you need the right tools for the job. That's why you need domain tools. They can help you research the history of a domain, including who owned it and what used to be on the site. They can notify you when a domain is expiring, and they can even alert you when competitors are buying domains. DomainTools.com needs to be in your toolbox like it is in mine. Sign up for your free account on DomainTools.com today. If you're a domain name investor, don't you have unique legal needs that require technical know-how and industry experience? That's why you need David Westlow of Wiley Rein. If you watched his interview on my show, you know he can clearly explain issues and help you with buy-sell agreements, website content issues, UDRP actions, or even website terms and conditions. David Westlow is the lawyer you call for internet legal issues. See for yourself at newmediaip.com. Managing multiple domain name marketplace and auction site accounts is a pain. We all know it. Inevitably, you forget to sign into one, you lose a great domain. Now imagine using a single, simple-to-use, comprehensive control panel to manage all of your accounts. That's Protrata. With just a few clicks, you can analyze, set filters, automate your bidding, and sell your domains across all major marketplaces, including Namejet, GoDaddy, and Snapdames. You can build out websites using their customized Google-friendly templates. They also just launched a fresh new look and provide some great resources like a personal assistant named Alfred and video tutorials with tips and tricks. I've been beta testing their iPhone app, and it is slick. Get your free 14-day trial now at Protrata.com. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor directly from the experts. The question for this show is this. You're going to buy a domain name for your new company and spend a few $1,000s in the process. What due diligence research do you do on a domain name before completing the transaction? Joining me to answer this question is Steve Jones. Steve is the co-founder and COO of Domain8.com, a domain name broker, training, and consulting service provider. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Steve, I ran across the video you produced on this topic and noticed that you're providing the video at doma.in, spelled DOMA.in, what's called a domain name hack for the word domain. Let me start the show by asking you this. Why did you buy the domain name doma.in?
Okay, so first off, I'll go ahead and give you some background on what we do at Domain8 and then give some background on why we made that decision. So I had started collaborating with Sharon Hayes in mid-2007 on various domain-related projects. And then soon after, we had founded Domain8.com and started to put all of our domain business through it. And then at the 2011 Domain Fest, we had introduced a revamped website along with new branding. And our mission was to bridge the gap between the domain industry and the mainstream world by not just selling domains, but also educating people on the importance and value of domain names and why they benefit from having a better domain for their business.
Sure.
So my own background had been primarily on the domain reselling side. Insurance had been split between selling to end users and doing wholesale sales. And through networking both on and offline, we had built up a lot of relationships with domain investors, resellers, developers. And after a few months after rolling out the new Domain8.com site, we realized that trying to serve two distinct markets, wholesale sales to bulk buyers and then end user sales to one-time buyers was pretty difficult. And we had the same issue on the educational side. Some things are more applicable on the wholesale side than on the end user side.
Right.
So we decided to have the focus on Domain8.com to be for end users, and then use Doma.in, which I'd actually had before, for domain training and our wholesale operations. So our user base for Doma.in is a split between people, just intrigued by domains and wanting to learn more, and those that are already established in the industry. And Domain8.com on the other hand, is geared to educating and selling to individuals and organizations. You need the right domain to establish a brand, rebrand, or boost their marketing efforts. And in the video you saw an example of something where there is some overlap with the kinds of information that helps, both domain investors and mainstream businesses. So some of the training videos we've done, they do apply to both audiences.
Got it. But it makes sense because you're using Domainate, DOMAINATE, as .com as a brandable. It's dominate domains is the idea, and you're reaching end users, and they get brandable domains, and it's in the .com. And I was gonna say, most end users don't understand that there's any other extension beside the .com and maybe .org. And so when you use doma.in, that would be completely confusing to an end user, but you're targeting people in the industry and those who want to learn more about domain names and understand that there are different extensions out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people in the industry, I think, have a better appreciation for domain hacks than anyone else. So
definitely.
I think it definitely, there's a good rapport there, with a domain like that.
So let me ask you this right off the bat. I've never bought a domain hack before. Well, I did buy a domain shortener, but not a hack as good as this one. How long have you owned doma.in?
I bought it in early 2007, actually with a different partner. It was bought as an investment with the possibility of development down the road. It was long enough ago, I don't even remember exactly what caused me to look it up. It's probably out of curiosity.
Right.
I was aware of domain hacks, and I might have seen a different one and just figured, hey, I wonder if this one's for sale. And I ended up finding it listed on Cedo as a make offer listing without a price. And ultimately wound up negotiating the seller down from actually about $7,500 to about $4,000 for it. And at the time it was still kind of tough to buy. Domain hacks, they weren't really popular yet.
Yeah.
There were a few large sites using them, but that was about it. And the resale market definitely wasn't there. Even still these days, it's spotty, at best. Sometimes there are pretty nice sales, but it's hard to really determine value of those kinds of domains.
Yeah.
So over the years, we had gotten some serious offers for it, but we had felt it was more valuable than anything that came in, and especially with it being relevant to what we do.
Right.
We figured eventually we could put it to some use, and then once we decided to split our wholesale and training off, it was the one domain that felt right.
Yeah.
We believe we should be setting great examples ourselves of the importance of selecting the right domain, and we made an arrangement with the other investor and started doma.in several weeks later.
Great. All right, so let's get into the domain name due diligence tactics. You have 11 tactics that you recommend every domain name buyer pay attention to. And when I say buyer, this is end user, this is the person thinking about starting a company, this is the entrepreneur out there who has an idea, knows they need an online presence, and wants to try and buy the best online presence they can. But let's talk for a moment about why due diligence is important before we get into the tactics.
Okay.
Why should someone perform due diligence research on a potential domain name purchase?
Well, knowledge is power, and you really want to be first off in a position of power if you're actually looking to get a particular domain. Part of the research is figuring out not just the value of the domain, but what the seller believes it's worth. You don't want to throw an offer out there that's far beyond what they think it's worth, and shortchange yourself basically, or overcharge yourself. So part of it's that, and then part of it's if you're starting a business, your domain is vital. It's one of those things where you want that to be your only decision in terms of your brand. And if you wind up with a domain that ultimately winds up hurting you in the end because of some red flags, something where it's blacklisted somewhere, or you're having a hard time getting it ranked in Google, anything like that, where if you didn't do the research up front, you're probably not going to realize it until too late, essentially, until you've already put in the work to launch the business. It's really important just to make sure that you're making a good decision. It's not just about a good domain; it's about making sure it'll help move your business.
Right. And so, worst case scenario, you may actually buy this domain, and it could be a complete waste of money. In some cases,
yeah, basically.
And so the tactics that you have will help people ensure that it's not, in the worst case, a waste of money. In the best case, you get the biggest value for the purchase.
Exactly.
All right, great. As with all business transactions, there are certain people out there that prey on the public through scams that masquerade as legitimate business deals. Likely if it's stolen, you might lose the domain name and the money you paid to the seller, just like you would with any real asset you purchase, such as jewelry or electronics. You buy some diamond watch off the street from some guy, and then later the police come and look at it. You're out your money, you're out the diamond watch. So, all right. So let me ask you this before we get into the tactics. Last question before we get into the 11 tactics. When should someone perform these due diligence steps, before or after they negotiate the price of the domain?
Before they negotiate the price, for sure, because a lot of it will help them, figure out a starting point for the negotiations. They don't want to. First off, if it's the domain that it's their first choice, they're absolutely sure that they want it. They want to maximize their chances of getting it. Mm-hmm. And, if they wind up seeing that the seller's expectation of value, for instance, is, quite up there, and, it's a case where putting, say, a very small offer may not even get a response, or may essentially, screw up the negotiations. It could hurt their chances of getting the domain entirely. So, there's a lot of different reasons to do the research, but, the value part of it, and just being able to go into the negotiations a little more, with a little more information that can help them, figure out a starting point and figure out probably where the ending point is going to be, or at least a ballpark.
Okay.
Will just help a lot.
Okay, so you need the information before you begin the negotiations.
Yes.
But you may actually do your research and then enter the negotiations, and the seller's expectations of the value of the domain may be way over what you're willing to pay, and then you did the research for naught.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be times when you wind up doing the research, and it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you can't really find enough in the research to figure out what the seller wants.
Yeah.
There's going to be cases like that, and at that point, you just have to basically base it on where you want to end up in the negotiations, and hope for the best. But there's going to be times as well where it'll definitely help you, either end up with a better price, or at the very least end up, actually getting the domain, whereas you may not have otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the tactics. So what's the first step?
Okay, the first step is to see what's on the domain by going to it. Okay. So obviously with doing that, you have to be careful of, spyware and viri. Thankfully these days, a lot of the browsers have, sort of checked a lot of the sites out there, and they'll stop you from going to it if it has something bad on it.
Right. Like if I start up Chrome and I try to go to a site that Google has identified as having spyware or something, it'll actually flash up an intermediary page that has a red symbol or circle with a red slash through it, and it'll say, don't go here, we've identified a potential problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So thankfully there's that now, but it's good to have.